Hi there, Martin Popoff back again for Overkill Reviews. I want to remind you to subscribe to BangerTV. We've got a couple of reviews every week, and don't forget to check out Shredders of Metal. We've got our first season archived right now. Before we get started, let's look at a video clip of the album's first single. There you go, that's the first single on the new Alice in Chains record, Rainier Fog, out today on BMG. I think it's a great choice for a first single. It's catchy, instantly catchy, I would say. It's got a cool progressive riff, kind of a monochromatic riff, atmospheric song, just a very good, I think, first choice for a single. So, short bio on these guys, Alice in Chains from Seattle. I'm sure you all know who they are, but just to give you a little bit of a primer. They actually started as a bit of a hair metal band, but then they came out with Facelift, quickly established themselves as a good, doomy, accessible, Sabbathy, heavy band. You know, definitely not as artsy as the other grunge bands at the time. Facelift eventually went double platinum. Dirt, which was an even better album and even more complicated, went 4 times platinum. In between, they got a couple of EPs, Jar of Flies and Sap, which sell insane amounts of copies. They're just like acoustic EPs. So they go away for a while after this third album, the Alice in Chains, famous for its 3-legged dog on the cover. Definitely notorious for their drug problems. Obviously, Lane Staley dies eventually, the lead singer. Then they come back with Black Gives Way to Blue, 2009. They've got a new singer in William Duvall. Doesn't look like Lane Staley did, but he certainly sounds like him. And also we find out that Jerry Cantrell sounds like Lane Staley, or can. It's almost like the old story where Phil Collins comes in and he's the only guy in the world who sounds like Peter Gabriel. So they got a singer in Genesis that sounds the same as Peter Gabriel. So here they are. They totally sound like Alice in Chains again. Then they put out the Devil Put Dinosaurs here, and now they've got a third album of this William Duvall era. So essentially they have as many albums as they used to have. So they're back, like all of these bands, kind of, well, I guess Soundgarden came back, Pearl Jam's kind of always been around, but this is a band that is definitely back. They're back in the public consciousness, and they definitely have a sound that's very similar to the old sound. But we'll get into that a little more. There are some pluses and negatives to that. You've heard a little bit of that lead single. I mean, as I say, I find this to be a good way to open the record. You get all of those Alice in Chains elements you want. You get a progressive, artful sort of metal, the same way Soundgarden did things. Let's try to, you know, mold and twist new things out of heavy metal, and you get that. I want to play you another song on this, one that I like quite a bit, called So Far Under. I find this to be maybe possibly the most heavy metal track, the one that has the most prominent heavy metal riff coming out of it. So let's take a listen to this one. I survive on the scraps you don't burn. Maybe love something I'll never What you hear on this, you get the twin vocal harmonies. I mean, this is one of the big things about Alice in Chains. The other thing is they don't say a lot of words really fast. They're just kind of droning on, and it drones on with all their guitars too. Very doomy, and again, this melding between William Duvall and Jerry Cantrell, where you can barely even tell the two guys apart, and they're sharing those duties. And what's more, they're also sharing guitar duties, which is kind of cool. I like it when a lead singer comes into a band and you don't give him much credence, but you give him a little more credence when he actually plays an instrument. So it's kind of cool that he plays guitar too. And yeah, it's amazing that he sounds like Lane. We've got this band that is just so authentically Alice in Chains. Another one I like on this record a lot is Red Giant, which is incredibly doomy. This is one of the cool things about Alice in Chains. They're always able to come up with the most apocalyptic sounding kind of movements and chord changes that you can imagine. This record, it also has a few things that might, you know, give a little bit, or dedicated a little bit to the very successful and surprisingly successful Sap and Jar of Flies thing. So you've got a couple of acoustic tracks, Fly and Maybe are a little bit like that. They're a little bit psychedelic. Jerry, you know, introduces acoustic guitar on it. There's a closing track here too that's a 7-minute song that's almost like a power ballad. But the rest of the songs just give you a lot of all those touchstones you want out of Alice in Chains. So what are a couple things I don't like about this record? There's a few songs that are, you know, quite predictable on it, but I'm kind of surprised that the second single, which is the title track, Rainier Fog, is just a little bit too ordinary for Alice in Chains. I do love the title. I love the title of the album. I'm from out west, and I remember that the greatest Rainier Fog of all time is when Rainier came out with Rainier Dry, and we had a little band in the 80s, and we used to come back after long drives, and this was the first dry beer we've ever seen before. So I'll always remember Rainier beer, which I believe doesn't exist anymore, but yeah, I just found that really funny about the title because my favorite beer drinking times of all time were drinking Rainier Dry. But that song, I don't know, not crazy about it. You know, one thing I find a little bit disconcerting, the production, third time in a row, is Nick Reskulinecz. It's hard to pronounce that name. I actually looked up and tried to find somebody saying it, but this is, you know, a famous hot producer. He did the last Rush album. What I find is that the production is, and this has happened in a lot of reviews I've done where I feel like it's too perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. Everything's there. All the bass and treble is there. Everything is there, but it's almost a little bit too smooth. And then just in general, again, personified by the song Rainier Fog, I found this just, it's almost a little bit, I don't want to be this harsh, but a little bit of Alice in Chains paint by numbers. I really do feel that all of the songs from the William Duvall era are pretty much interchangeable, and given that it's the same producer and mixer, although you can listen to individual songs because they're such a smart, intellectual, what can we do with heavy metal band, you know, every song you can go, wow, that's really clever. But when you put it all together, it's almost like an inundation of too much of what you expect out of Alice in Chains. I want that grunge spirit a little bit of complete and total unpredictability, you know, rawness, strangeness, and you don't really get it with this. But what you do get is, you know, just a good, solid Alice in Chains record, and what's wrong with that? There actually are only 6 of them, so more Alice in Chains in the world is a good idea. If you happen to be a huge Alice in Chains fan, you're going to be satisfied by this record. But if you're a little bit fussy, you're gonna be in that zone where you're saying it's a little bit too safe. The cool thing about grunge was that it wasn't safe at all. There was nothing predictable about what these bands were doing, especially on those early records, with Alice in Chains, especially on the, you know, the self-titled album. I think a lot of people will look at this and say, this isn't in the spirit of how these things are supposed to go. They're not supposed to be a safe band, and I truly find, and this is what I don't like about the new album, I truly find that literally all of the songs on this are interchangeable throughout all of the songs on the William Duvall era. So there you go. I feel like they're doing everything you want out of this band. They're the only band doing this. It is very smart and intellectual, but I would say for the reason of just feeling a little unsatisfied that it's a little bit predictable, I'm going to give the new Alice in Chains album 3.5 out of 5 skulls. A couple of shout-outs for you. Out this week, we've got the new Mob Rules album, which is called Beast Reborn. And out next week, we've got Udo from Accept back with Steel Factory. Looks to be one word, Steel Factory, in the true German screwing up English fashion. And we've got good old Finnish Doom in Omnium Gatherum's The Burning Cold. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to all our Patreon donors. Look for your name in the credits. If you would like your name in the credits, check out our Patreon page for more details.